My name is Norm Tyler. I was a Peace Corps volunteer in Sierra Leone, and I was with a construction project, rural construction project, from February 60, I don't remember, February 64 to February 66.
Okay.
Well, now one project we had was an A-frame school. This was a school designed by one of the construction volunteers, and his goal was to have a new school out in this area where we were given some funds to build a new school, have a school that was culturally appropriate. And so when he looked around the area, he saw that the villages were surrounded by farms where there were huts out there that had built in the form of an A-frame that were simply thatched, and this is a place they would go if it rained or when they were sleeping out at the farm overnight or something like that. And so he felt that an A-frame design would work well for one of these local schools. And so we got some of this hardwood and we built this fairly significant structure out of this, in this A-frame shape. And at first we had up to 300 people helping us with the construction, volunteers that were sent by the Paramount Chief to help us level the field and do some of the basic footings and foundations. But then they started seeing these A's go up and they kept asking, what are these things for? And we said, you'll like it, it looks just like some of your other buildings. And as we started to put the corrugated aluminum on the roof, which was provided by the USAID, when we started to put that up, they said, this is nothing better than one of these farm huts that we use out on our farms. This is an insult. And it took us a while to figure this out, but finally my coworker explained to me that these people were being insulted by the shape of this school. They wanted a Western school. They wanted a school that looked like schools in the big cities or up in Europe. And it did not look like that. And so I had to get some of the other Peace Corps volunteers to come out and help finish the school, do some of the painting, and we'd had a rock wall that was a rough rock wall that was built out of local stone from the river, and the people were insulted by that because it looked too crude, and so we had to take the rock wall and cover it with cement and then score it so it looked like blocks, so it would look more Western. And so the whole thing was a real lesson for us in being culturally aware and not to work off of our own assumptions, but to talk very closely and with people. And from then on, we didn't have too many problems like that because we had learned our lesson in a big way. And when we finally finished the school, the people still weren't able to accept it, and so they built 2 thatched huts next to it where they held classes, and the school sat empty for as long as I was there. Now I hope that after I left Sierra Leone and this building was there and the thatch had fallen off the other buildings, maybe they would have started using it. It might have made a difference in the long run, but I've never been back to find out.
My name is Gladys Beard. I was in Freetown, Sierra Leone, West Africa, and I was there from 1965 to 1967, and I was in the first group of volunteer secretaries. And what I did, in addition to my secretarial responsibilities in the Peace Corps office there, was that I worked at did volunteering at the orphanage there with the children. I got together a group of volunteers and we painted the place and did all sorts of work up there for them. And I taught adult literacy in the evening. And yes, those were some of the things I did.
Hi, my name is Roseanne Scott. I served in Sierra Leone from 1967 to 1969. In 2004, I returned to Sierra Leone, and I went back to my village, and I went back. And finally, I went to where the little boys next door lived when I had served as a Peace Corps volunteer. The whole time that I was there, they were always looking in my windows and watching me do things and followed me around all of the time and were totally happy all of the time. And the little boy now was a grown man, a farmer, and he had children of his own. And he said to me, "I've been praying all these years that you would come back."
Hey, I'm Pat O'Leary. Everything I'm going to tell you is a fabrication, first of all. But I was trained to go to Tanzania in Tanzania at 13. We didn't get there because the government didn't want us. I ended up in Sierra Leone in 67, 68. I went back in 2004. And I drank a lot of beer. I was bitten by a snake. I was thrown out of the village. I kept in contact with the chief of the area I lived in and I saw him again in 2004. When I went back to the village in 2004, the house I lived in was still there. I looked up, and a young boy came up to me and said, "Who are you and what are you doing here?" And I said, "I used to live here. Who are you?" And he said, "I live down the hill." And down the hill there was a house very much like the one that had been there 36 years earlier. And I thought I recognized someone's body language through the trees and bushes and stuff. Years ago, Pa Tamba and his wives Yankee and Yabu lived there. I walked down the hill. Out comes Pa Tamba, we say Kushe. Out comes Yankee, comes to the door. She sees me. She yells my name. She runs over, grabs my waist, and bows down to me. I was surprised. I think Yankee had forgotten I didn't taken and eaten one of their papaya plants years ago.
Wow. It's John McWilliam. I served as a Peace Corps volunteer in Sierra Leone from 1967 to 69. My first year I taught English in a primary school in Matotoka, and the second year at a teacher training college in Maborka, which is around 15 miles away.
I'm Jeannie Sams Siegler, and I was a teacher in Camabai, Sierra Leone, which is about 20 miles north of McCaney in the northern province of Sierra Leone.
Chris Sigler, I was a volunteer 67 to 69 in Sierra Leone, in a number of towns, Kalangba, Batkanu, Kabbalah. I think the most interesting thing to us now is we've been back to Sierra Leone 5 or 6 times since the Civil War. But it was interesting, one of the years we went back, 2008 maybe, or 7, first time we met Njai. We went back to the village, my first village in the Peace Corps, and there was a guy there that had been, I was only there a short time, but he was, I think the paramount chief had set him up to be my protector and make sure that things went okay. And it was his son that said, "You know, we really like the Peace Corps because they come back. You know, the government comes out here and they make speeches and then we never see them again. Peace Corps comes back," which, you know, was unsolicited. I mean, it was a pretty remarkable statement.
Yeah.